What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 8-game slate in the association, covering all the injuries on a big injury report as we continue our way through the condensed portion of the schedule until we get to the All-Star break in about a month when the teams can rest and reset. But we are officially more than halfway through the season. Once Charlotte plays tonight, they'll be the last team, I believe, to have not played 41 games. I think that's right. Golden State with the cancellations might have gotten there as well. But Mike, midway point of the season, essentially, how are you feeling about things?
Yeah, doing good. The Cavs also. I was doing this as well. I'm ready for the halfway point, and the Warriors too. Are the guys who aren't there? Yeah. Not too much NBA over the weekend. Really early Saturday slate with no late game. So got my chef's hat on. Did a little Chef Curry. Did a little lemon butter chicken action. But so it was kind of fun. I don't really get to get my chef hat on too often. I do like to cook, so that was fun for the weekend, and good day for me and better day for you on Saturday.
Yeah, always good to get another trip around the sun. So year 42, ready to go. Man, I'm old. All right, let's get into the game-by-game stuff today. Let's start with Cleveland and Orlando. On the Cleveland side of things, Karis LeVert questionable with a right wrist sprain. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley still out. What are your notes on the Cavs?
Yeah, this Karis thing, I thought he was going to miss that first game. We took a Max Strus over bet when we originally had the Karis Q tag. He plays through it, and then he missed the last game. Certainly bothering him with the shooting wrist. I think he's got a chance to miss this one as well. That would certainly put Craig Porter Jr. in the rotation, would help out Sam Merrill in a matchup that's not very good. The Magic take away a lot of jump shooting. And then, you'd have just massive handling for Donovan Mitchell, which he's been handling a ton. The last 4 or 5 games, he's only behind. I think he's second in touch time. Should also note Max Strus got dinged up in this game. He was sore after the game, but it sounds like he's going to be good to go. But he's kind of run kind of bad. He's had that knee thing where they were going to quote unquote protect him in the Paris game. So kind of running pretty unlucky with the injuries. But yeah, so we'll cut probably game time on LeVert. And then, like I said, it'd be Craig Porter in there if they don't have him available.
Yeah, would not be surprised whenever they're able to get Garland and Mobley back if you see some Strus maintenance days, because he's been pretty banged up throughout the season. Orlando side of things, second night of back-to-back for Orlando. Big divisional win at home against the Heat for our divisional futures that I tweeted about yesterday. Markelle Fultz is out, Gary Harris is out, Jet Howard, Kevon Harris, and Jonathan Isaac all listed out today. With Orlando, we've seen some late adds to injury reports on the second end of back-to-back, so I would not say that this is a final list by any means, but it's a list that makes sense in terms of Fultz, Harris, and Isaac all being out. We saw Wendell Carter Jr.'s minutes get really elevated yesterday. We saw Goga Bitadze go from penthouse to outhouse, Mo Wagner back in the rotation, so a lot of moving parts here for the Magic. What are your notes on Orlando?
Yeah, let's start with Franz, who returned from injury. Was going pretty full. He was trending for 31, if not for 3 minutes of garbage time. So we've got him pretty full here. I think we got him at 31 again for the back-to-back. Should be pretty tight defensive game. I think it's a 214 over-under. Really low total for these days. And then, as you mentioned, they added Jonathan Isaac. I always call them the people who took tests in school and always finish first and then usually didn't get a good grade because they always screw this up. But let's talk about Goga. He was asked, Jamal Mosley after the game, what's up with him, and he said he's not hurt. So this is straight DNPC. He didn't even get garbage time, which was interesting. So curious to see if he comes back. We know teams run double bigs a lot. The Bulls most recently, they ran that double center lineup against the Cavs. We've seen some Mo Wagner for. I think that's on the table. We only got 1 minute overlap, so we're kind of not buying. So yeah, expecting. We have Anthony Black starting for Markelle Fultz here. Certainly not a lot of minutes. Will help Cole Anthony a little bit. Jalen Suggs will have to guard Donovan Mitchell. And then, Chumo KK also gets in the mix, more or less. He was out of the rotation yesterday, but he'll kind of come into Isaac's spot as a backup for behind Paolo.
Yeah, and wouldn't be surprised to see guys that were seemingly out of the rotation back in kind of immediately on back-to-backs and stuff. A couple of things here with Orlando. One, as we've talked about the last few weeks, they have too many players for too few spots in terms of the rotation. And two, it just makes sense that if you're going to move pieces around, that using the back-to-backs as ways to get fresh legs in there and avoid some of the issues that happen with back-to-backs with teams playing tired would be a way to do so. So I would not treat yesterday as like for sure Goga's gone and done. And I would not treat for sure like Mo Wagner's for sure back. And like it's just you have to hedge a bunch of stuff because it's unclear, which, as we've talked about, for those of you who use our projections to bet on your own, when there's situations like Orlando that have multiple hedge spots, like we're projecting like 11, 12 guys in, that's a good sign that we're hedging stuff. That's going to be vulnerable to any one guy playing meaningfully more than we're projecting because we don't know which guy is going to get the minutes on that given night. So yeah.
I should mention too, I was just like, man, we had an under on Wendell Carter Jr. He played a ton yesterday.
Yep.
We did not see that coming. He was really limited for a while. He returned from the hand injury, and we were wondering when are the minutes coming up. Then he has knee tendonitis, and now he's back. It certainly seems like they kept this lineup in their back pocket for when Franz returned. So certainly makes a lot of sense. And I'll also add Powell's role has really shrunk with Markelle Fultz trending up now with Franz Wagner back. So he had one of the best roles in the NBA about a week ago. Now it's just good, not great.
Yep. All right, let's move to Milwaukee and Detroit. On the Milwaukee side of things, Giannis Antetokounmpo with that dreaded probable tag, right shoulder contusion. No other listings on the injury report here for Milwaukee that are meaningful, just a couple G Leaguers. What are your expectations on Giannis's availability tonight?
Yeah, it should be good. This is the same thing. Got tagged with over the weekend. Got rolled in pretty early. Looked fine. Free throw parade in this game. Dame with a 45 ball. One of the quietest 45s. He just kind of coasted the whole way there. But yeah, obviously, huge scoring game. The Pistons are terrible. We'll talk about how defensive matchups could change with who's available. But yeah, pretty straightforward here. Dame played great, and he'll be in another really strong matchup again.
Detroit side of things, Cade Cunningham doubtful. Monty Morris doubtful. Isaiah Stewart questionable here. So a couple doubtful tags on players have been out of late. What does that mean for potential return timelines for those players, and what do you think of Stewart's availability tonight?
Yeah, nice to see Monte Morris get the D tag. We always like the count of Monte assist TO back out there. His name will be popping up in trade rumors, I would suspect. But yeah, Isaiah Stewart, the big Q tag here, he would be very much needed. He would, if he's available, he would start and he would draw the Giannis assignment on Saturday. They flipped matchups. They actually put Duren on Giannis and they put Boyan on Brook, which a lot of teams do that. And I thought Duren did fine, but Isaiah Stewart's pretty capable. One of the better, bigger, big barrel chested guys. Shout out to Antonio Brown, I guess. But so we'll see about him. And then as you mentioned, Cade getting closer. He's kind of on his timeline, probably back at some point this week, we would hope. And I'm rooting for Monte Morris to make it back this week too.
San Antonio and Philadelphia. On the San Antonio side of things, Zach Collins questionable with the right ankle sprain. Dominic Barlow questionable. He's had that questionable tag a lot of late. Has not been an issue. What are your notes on the Spurs?
Yeah, a little odd that Zach Collins played over the weekend. Pop said on Friday he was not expected to play. Then he got listed as probable. We were, very skeptical of that probable tag. But he does go out there and play. And they also flipped Dominic Barlow's Q tag to out in the last time to save his, two-way days out there. So, yeah, it's going to be, Wemby starting 28 minutes. He's up to 27-minute limit now, according to Popovich, and no sign of going above that. They'll kind of wiggle it. He got 28 on the screen there. But, yeah, the 24s are over. He's looking at 27 in games close from a minimum. Certainly a huge spread on this game. But, yeah, that mostly covers it. I don't really have too much to add. One game late with my my Trey Jones double bet. Bet it on Friday, didn't bet it on Saturday.
Yeah, he didn't take into account the brother revenge factor playing with. His
we
brother.
did. We took.
No, I'm saying for your own double bet, you didn't. Factor in. In terms of Wembanyama, there's also been rumblings about the back-to-backs restriction being pulled off from Wembanyama at some point as well. So a lot of room for optimism for Wembanyama's fantasy value as he continues to produce outrageous lines in limited time.
Yeah,
let's move to the
his first
Philadelphia
usage rate since January 3rd. Man, he's just chucking.
Yep. Let's move to the Philadelphia side of things, where their injury report's pretty full. Robert Covington and DeAnthony Melton still out. Questionable tags on Mo Bamba, Marcus Morris, Jaden Springer, and then a probable tag on Pat Beverly with illness. Joel Embiid not listed on the injury report, so good news there. What are your notes on Philadelphia tonight?
Yeah, pretty thin. We expected some pretty strong minutes over the weekend, and we mostly got them. Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. We saw a little bit of Point Tobias mixed in. Korkmaz popped in the rotation. House picked up a pretty heavy amount of minutes, so they would all benefit a little bit more. If Morris can't go, yeah, it could be really tight, man. Obviously, there's spread concerns, but there could be some pretty heavy minutes on the guys who are available. They haven't really been going to KJ and those guys. We know Nick Nurse. He was we talk about Tibbs minutes for guys who play it. Who coaches who give high minute totals. Nick Nurse is certainly known for that, so we can get that case here against the Spurs team. They should handle.
All right, let's move to Memphis and Toronto. On the Memphis side of things, Xavier Tillman is questionable here. The out list remains long for Memphis. No Marcus Smart, no Derrick Rose, no John Morant, Jake LaRavia, Brandon Clark, Desmond Bane, or Steven Adams. Without Xavier Tillman, the front court potentially gets even more depleted. He's questionable tonight with left knee soreness. What are your notes on Tillman and the rest of the Grizzlies?
Yeah, Tillman, this is a new thing from the weekend. We saw him pop out in the last game. It was pretty obvious they were going to sit him with a late Q tag on Saturday. So, yeah, we'll see about him there. You got me? My computer's kind of lagging.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay,
just
cool.
The screen is a little laggy, but I can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm all kind of lagging here. Okay, so yeah, we'll see Santi Aldama start if we do not have Xavier Tillman, and they ran 9 over the weekend. We were kind of thinking they could get Scottie Pippen Jr. in there as a 10th man, but they went 9, so I would expect that to happen again overall. And this team is terrible. Since Bane went down, they are dead last in offense. They can't score, man. I haven't pulled the trigger on this one yet, but I felt really strongly about Chicago minus 7.5, and I'm thinking about taking Toronto here. I just have no faith in this Memphis offense right now. Luke Kennard starting, but actually the lead ball handler was Jaren Jackson. Led in touch time. He's had 3.5 pick and roll handler possessions per game in the last 2, so he's running a lot of inverted stuff. Huge role. Matchups not great against Scotty, but just A+ role possible for Jaren here.
Yeah, I think at this point the season is ultimately turned into, from the Grizzlies' perspective, see what other skill sets you can test out for Jaren Jackson Jr. and see what kind of development you can get from Vince Williams Jr., Gigi Jackson, some of these secondary guys, because there's not a lot of other things to be optimistic about here. Toronto side, Jakob Poeltl remains out with that left ankle sprain. They have been getting destroyed on the boards basically since he's gone down. What are your notes on Toronto?
Yeah, pretty much same story here. Really good matches for the perimeter players. I gave Emmanuel quickly a great matchup. A+ pick and roll handler. Expect them to have a pretty big role. Yeah, they'll start the same guys here. Jonte won't have a big minute ceiling overall, and yeah, Bruce Brown's minutes didn't really. We're curious to see if Bruce Brown can get a little bit more playing time. Kind of didn't happen. They do seem to like Trent, but of course, the trade rumors are flying. We've seen Bruce Brown's name pop up, Gary Trent's name pop up. So yeah, that's kind of one thing that's looming, but yeah, expecting pretty much the same rotation here.
Yeah, Bruce Brown openly pleading for the Knicks to trade for him, basically, with his commentaries about how much he loves Tom Thibodeau. Has been interesting to watch from afar. Charlotte in Minnesota, on the Charlotte side of things, still very thin at the center position. Mark Williams out, going to be out a while. Nick Richards doubtful. Gordon Hayward still out. Cody Martin questionable. LaMelo Ball probable. Tag with right ankle soreness. Again, ankles with LaMelo Ball on the injury report. It's just seems to be a constant. What are your notes on the Hornets?
Yeah, it's just maintenance. We saw LaMelo sit back to back, not a new injury. Got listed with the same thing that kept him out for a month or whatever. So expect him back. He's probable now, so should be good. Minutes. We don't have a big limit on him, but we have him limited because of a blowout. The spread's 15.5. It may have come a little bit down with Conley out. But yeah, Nick Richards doubtful again here. Not great. So they'll probably start PJ Washington. Nathan Mensah could pick up a little bit. They've got some depth. And, the garbage time lineup, they got plenty of bodies. They got Leaky Black, they got Frank Ntilikina, they got James Bouknight, they got JT Thor, Mensah. So, the second unit guys aren't, if you're playing blowout, it's kind of tough. Like the guys who aren't in the rotation, even if Cody Martin's out, is still pretty thin, just to kind of get ahead of myself there. But yeah, and if Cody's out, we gave a little bit more to Nick Smith, a little bit of Bryce McGowan's, and maybe they pull somebody else out, but it could also get pretty tight. We know that Clifford has run some pretty heavy minutes. Of course, this is going to be tough. The Wolves have been really good. Like last year, the Wolves would just lay eggs. Speaking of someone who would bet on them a lot, when they looked like they were in a good matchup, they would just blow games. But they've been really good against bad teams. They're number one in half-court defense against bottom 10 teams. Like it's like 85.5. They've been fantastic. So big blowout risk in this game.
On the Wolves side, Mike Conley has been ruled out due to rest. They are also currently without their G Leaguers, which is meaningful in a game that carries some blowout risk. So Leonard Miller, Josh Minott, and Jalen Clark still ruled out here. Jalen Clark's lost for the season. It's just Minott and Leonard Miller. What are your notes on the Wolves in the absence of Mike Conley tonight?
Yeah, it should almost certainly be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We saw Nah start the last game for Conley, played 40 minutes in an overtime game. He's been great, man. One of not really like a heralded player, but whenever Nah makes an impact, Chris Finch will bring him up unprompted. So really big minutes stealing out of him. We have him at 31 with a little bit of blowout baked in there. And then everything else is the same. We've been seeing really strong minutes out of Gobert. Towns is an A-plus matchup. Both those guys are. And Anthony Edwards, this matchup would get a lot easier if Cody Martin can't go.
All right, let's move to Boston and Dallas on the Boston side of things. Second night of back-to-back here for Boston. Kristaps Porzingis has already been ruled out. Underdog says Drew Holiday is not on the injury report. I'd like to know how does Underdog know this? Because they have not filed according to the 130 injury report. So what does Underdog know that we don't know? But Gallagher, what's the update on Boston tonight?
Yeah, the team PR had mentioned it, so the beats were on that and mentioned. So it's not on it'll be on the official. Some like that they filed their report through their PR after the last report, so it'll be on the next one. But yes, Drew Holiday is back, as I mentioned last week. He gets tagged with his elbow thing. He's been tagged with, like, when he pops up in the injury report, it's always that, and he usually plays through it. But this time they set him out for the back-to-back. They were still able to get the win. His minutes have been a little down. And it's a little bit tied to like the Jokic thing. We saw Al Horford cut into him a little bit, and we've seen just a couple times like fouls or something like that, blowout. But we're kind of throwing it all out. We got him at, I think, 33.5 because he's going to have to pick up Luka, and we know Luka's going to play like 40 minutes. So we could see a big minute ceiling out of Drew Holiday. Easy part of this. Al Horford, a lock basically to start for Porzingis. Good matchup to do it, right? He's a guy that can handle pick and roll heavy defenses pretty strongly. So that's kind of the story there. We got a little bit of Luke Cornett. O'Shea Brissett actually had a pretty impactful game yesterday with some defense. And then Nimius Keita, we snuck in there for a little bit. But yeah, back to back. They had to play pretty decent minutes yesterday. So it should be an interesting game considering betting Boston here. For me, I haven't done it yet though.
Dallas side of things, Seth Curry and Dante.
We just got Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is ill now. He's questionable. So if he's out, then I guess they would start. They go jumbo. I guess they would start slow mo. I kind of think. No slow mo, Jaden. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's probably right. That would be a very, very, very big team, but that's probably right.
Yeah, they run giant lineups.
Shake
they
Milton
run like
back in the mix as well, maybe.
Yep.
I was just saying we might see Shake Milton dusted off for some reserve guard minutes as well. In that case, although Jordan McLaughlin's kind of iced him of late. But yeah, that's a big one to monitor because that would open up a lot more value on the Minnesota side as if there wasn't already enough with Conley out. Dallas side, Seth Curry and Dante Exum out. No listing on the injury report for either Kyrie or Luka Doncic, so they appear good to go. What are your notes on the Mavs?
Yeah, they've been off for a bit. Their game was postponed against the Warriors, so they've been off since Wednesday. They were able to get some practice time in. Luka was good to go. He's been fine. Minutes have been really strong. Kyrie, we saw him get tackled by LeBron in the last game. Checked out for a little bit. Was a little bit limited in practice. So we got a little bit of a limit on him just because he looked a little bit hobbled. Could be fully wrong here, but I think there is a little bit of downside. Maybe if we get more comments, we'll go back to full. And then expecting Josh Green to get in the starting lineup here for defense. We've seen Tim Hardaway Jr., the substitute teacher, which shout out to the broadcast. They were shouting out the substitute teacher reference for someone who I always love when the national beats or the national coverage gets the nitty gritty quotes that I love so much. But so I expect Josh Green to start, Luka, Kyrie, Lively, Derek Jones Jr. And then probably see a little bit of Hardy, Grant Williams, Maxi's still in there. They're playing a little bit bigger and they're going to need the size. I could see Maxi get up in there a little bit. They're going to need the defense for sure.
Let's go to Chicago and Phoenix. On the Chicago side of things, Andre Drummond probable, Patrick Williams probable. They're without Zach LaVine, Torrey Craig. What are your notes on the Bulls tonight?
Yeah, nice win, as I mentioned. Shot. But I think whenever I bet the Bulls, I've won like every time. I'm the Bulls whisperer. Not really much to say. Kobe White's in a little bit of a shooting slump. His role is still pretty good. He's still driving 15 times per game, so it's just shooting variance, I would say. Could expect him to be pretty busy. And then we'll get Paul Caruso starting, and then a little bit of Ayo, who's been playing pretty well off the bench. Javon Carter's still in the mix. Then that's kind of their core 8. Dalen Terry being the 9th. Could be pretty strong minutes here. So it's kind of straightforward.
Turns out Kobe White is not Steph Curry for our baselines work. Who knew? Let's move to the Phoenix Suns. Second night of a back-to-back here, not yet submitted. What are your expectations on what we might see from the Suns injury report later today?
Yeah, could see somebody. I would say it'd be Kevin Durant would be the one who's most likely coming off a nice, really strong fourth, put up a 40 ball on Siakam on him a bunch. Beal played great too, and Grayson. If any of these guys are out, that's a giddy up for Grayson. He's one of the top. I think he's 9th in catch and shoot points. The Bulls give up more catch and shoot points than anybody in the NBA. Just don't fight Alex Caruso, and you should be all right. But so we'll wait and see. But I think there's a chance Durant misses, and I guess they would go to. They might just go to Gordon. It's so weird. Like they have no faith in anybody besides their starters and Eric Gordon. It's just such a tough thing to spot here, and we'll see if they go for a trade or the buyout market, probably more likely. But I don't know if they can afford to sit these guys. There's just no depth. Should mention Nurk got into foul trouble and they closed small. That also really benefited Eric Gordon. They love this Eric Gordon with the small ball lineup. KD at the 5. We saw him do it with Sabonis. Did a little bit yesterday. It was a little side note that Miles Turner, his minutes got cut down. They went small too. That was very odd. But anyways,
Rick Carlisle, man, this guy with the 3-minute stints for TJ McConnell, only playing him 12 minutes as a starter. Miles Turner sub 20 minutes as a starter. That was last game of a road trip. I'm just going to mess around with stuff. I mean, this is an 11-man rotation. You don't see this in the NBA. And not just like 11 guys played. This was an 11-man rotation. Benny Matherin only 14 minutes. Like, this was just a lot of tomfoolery for the last game of a road trip for Indiana. And still, Phoenix kind of let this team hang around with all these guys who are like kind of borderline-ish NBA talents, G League type players getting extended time. So Phoenix defense continues to struggle. And I would note one other guy to keep an eye on just on the injury report back-to-back stuff is that Eric Gordon. They sometimes will rest him on back-to-backs. He hasn't had to play as much, but 30 minutes on the front end, I don't know. It's viable that he could potentially get thrown on the injury report as well. So that's another name to look out for. Atlanta and Sacramento, last game of the slate, the game that I think most will be looking to for points with these two teams with the way they play defense and pace. You will not be getting those points from Trae Young, though, tonight. He is listed out due to concussion protocol. They're also without DeAndre Hunter and Wesley Matthews. What are your notes on the Hawks?
Yeah, not great. I expect him to miss the game against the Warriors on, I think, Wednesday. Kind of weird. You usually see those East Coast teams going out west for like 3 or 4 or 5 road games. They're only going to 2. They're only doing
it's a 2-game
trip.
Yeah, it's a 2-game trip, and I think part of that is going to, for you those of you out there that own or have Trae Young on your teams in season long, I think it's costing you an extra game because it's just a 2-game trip, and I think there's just no reason to have them travel all the way out there. So yeah, it's a frustrating scheduling issue for Atlanta for sure.
Yeah, and he has a no timeline, so he's for sure out 2 games, as you mentioned. If you're in a weekly, you might want to sit him depending on what your other options are. If you're in a 30-man, you probably still got to play him. Yeah, so DeJounte, big role, huge role, I should say. Touch time really up in the last 2 games. Been elite there from a handling standpoint and a shooting perspective. Rim shots have been up, certainly a good spot. Cover boyed him today. I'm sure he's going to be very highly owned. But I'd be eating some DeJounte chalk. We get the Boyan revenge game. I said Boyan again. I got to stop doing this, man. Bogdan revenge game. Expect him to start, though it could be a little bit dicey. Because they're going to need the on-ball defense. We saw DeJounte guard some on-ball guys, like a little bit, a lot of hero 2 games ago. So keep an eye on how Trent Forrest can impact. He kind of got nuked last game. So again, bottom line here, definitely expecting DeJounte, Bogdan, Saddiq Bey, who I'll talk about, Jalen Johnson, and Capella. I cannot believe Saddiq Bey is cold, man. There's probably nobody colder in the NBA. On wide open threes, I think he's like, the stat really quick here. Yeah, he's 20.9% on his 43 wide open threes. He's at 16% on 50 catch and shoot threes. Just a complete disaster. We had an over on him, and he did not deliver with a goose. Tough scene for Saddiq Bey.
Over under number of other 30-person fantasy basketball leagues. If I set the line at total 30 plus owner fantasy basketball leagues in the world operating right now, if I set the line at 2.5, would you go over or under? You're in one of them.
Yeah, I'm in one of them. I think I would go. I think I would go over. There's got to be a couple other ones out there.
Yeah, I know of. I don't know.
First place, by the way.
There are rumors of another one that involves league personnel. There are rumors that came across my desk a few years ago about being invited to join in one that involved some members of league personnel as well. But those are the only 2 I've ever heard of that are 30-man leagues. So interested to find out if any listeners out there are in a 30-man league.
Shout out to me.
All right, Kings side.
Look at that beautiful record. Shout out to me.
Kings side of things. Sasha Vezenkov listed questionable here. Other G Leaguers, Kessler Edwards, Jordan Ford, Jalen Slauson, all out. What are your notes on the Kings?
Not much to say. De'Aaron Fox has been a little bit of a shooting slump. He is a little bit dinged up, according to Mike Brown, but they basically said that everyone's kind of dinged up at this point of the season. Yeah, Keegan Murray, he'll be busy. Expect him to get the Murray guarding DeJounte. He's been picking up a pretty big on-ball role. Kevin Huerter, doesn't have someone with a similar name, so I can't screw him up. He gets a revenge game as well. Minutes have been really strong. He's kind of come back to life. And again, we talked about this late last week, man. The rotations are getting real tight here. Like we're seeing Malik Monk get up there most of the time. Consistently upper 30s from Fox, Sabonis, and those guys. We love this matchup, right? Terrible transition defense, terrible rim defense. They even give up catch and shoot stuff, as you mentioned, to open this game. Points could definitely come in bunches today.
All right. That'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you're interested in supporting our content here, the best way to do so is subscribe to this channel, get notifications by hitting that bell whenever we go live or post new content. Our goal and our mission is to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of this NBA season. We are at a little over 4,500 last I checked. So need about 500 of you and your closest friends to subscribe to this channel to help meet our goals. That helps keep this show free for the time being. We'll see in future if it remains that way. And as always, if you're interested in joining some of our paywalled content, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details on our player props packages, our DFS packages, all of the stuff behind the paywall. Myself and Gary Hartman will be on the DFS show at 5 o'clock Eastern time tonight, breaking down the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, the leverage pivots, and of course the flag plants on the DFS show. So join us there behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. If you are interested in supporting this content and keeping it free, another great way to do that is to feed that algorithm and circulate it so we can get more people watching these videos, perhaps more subscribers onto the channel, and perhaps feed our families. So the best way to do that is to smash that like button. That helps feed our families, allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed the algorithm, feed yourselves. Nom, 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 nom. We'll